Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a drama from the United States, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by Rick Alverson, and this film is called Entertainment. So Entertainment is about a down-and-out stand-up comedian. He's very depressed with his life. He feels as though his life's going nowhere. He performs in front of these empty bars on the outskirts of the United States. He performs in front of prisoners and jails, and no one really finds him that funny. And the more he does his stand-up, the worse his quality is getting, because inside he's feeling as though he's self-destructing, up until the point where he's on the verge of a mental breakdown and passing the point of no return. So whether or not this man can find new inspiration for living life is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Entertainment. I was very intrigued to see this film. I wasn't overly excited because not many people talk about it, but the reason why I wanted to see it is that it looked very different and it was tackling a style of humour that I really appreciate. But it's a style of humour that is very difficult to achieve, and that style is deadpan humour. And this is something that Scandinavian cinema do so well. And so when I saw that a low-budget American independent film was tackling deadpan humour, I thought to myself, alright, well maybe this is a film that I could be really excited about. Maybe this is a movie that is an uncovered gem. And so that was the expectation. I had sort of my fingers crossed. I wasn't overly excited. I didn't set it on a very high pedestal, but I was hoping, all right, well, low-budget independent cinema, especially from the United States recently, has really impressed me. And having John C. Reilly in this movie was another draw card, is that I really like him as far as a comedic actor. And he actually has acting chops as far as more serious stuff is concerned. So I thought, all right, well, such a big name in comedy, coming into a film of a lower budget, I thought, well, maybe that is another reason to watch this film and another reason to have some sort of excitement. So was this a film that was going to make me very excited and make me rush out there and tell everyone to watch it? Or was this a movie that was going to be a disappointment? Unfortunately, although this movie is not a total disappointment, I can appreciate what the director was trying to do. I just thought as though there was not enough consistency to execute the really good ideas to a point where I thought as though it was a rewarding experience. Now that's something I'll go into a little bit later, but what I liked about Entertainment is that it uses its low budget very well. It's a very dreary film, it's a very unforgiving film, it's a very, very downbeat and cruel movie. And the visuals play a story. The visuals tell you what is going on inside this man's soul, is that this man is very depressed, he's very downbeat. And the visuals are very dreary and downbeat, and they are basically setting the mood for what the viewer is supposed to feel for this guy. And you do feel some sort of sympathy for him. You want him to succeed. Is that we've all been there with our lives where we're not sure what we want to do, and what we're actually doing doesn't necessarily make us happy, but this is what society wants from us. And in this case, it's comedy. It's stand-up comedy. Basically, the clown, they always say the clown is the saddest person, and Robin Williams is a perfect example of this. One of the funniest men that ever lived, yet inside he was a tortured soul. And so this is something that is very relevant in this main character, is that he's trying to be funny and he's not really succeeding, and is that maybe that is because he's depressed inside, and that depression is starting to come through, and because he's not getting what he wants and what he strives for, he's becoming frustrated and very bitter, which in turn accelerates that level of depression. So it's a very, very vicious cycle, and I could actually relate to this. I have depression myself, and that frustration does come in, and the more frustrated you get with life, the more you're kind of accelerating that bad emotion, and it's just a vicious cycle, and you get caught in it, and there's no real escape from it. And so I thought this movie has emulated that in a way where I thought it was interesting, is that, alright, the vicious cycle has captured this guy, and it's capturing the viewer as well. It's a very repetitive film, and in some instances the repetitive nature can actually work because it gives you that mentality, but I just thought as though, alright, well, the deadpan sort of quality that this movie has was a very interesting aspect, and it had a lot of potential. I thought the acting from the main character was actually quite decent. The comedy is delivered in a way that is very deadpan, so it's not slapstick, it's not being silly, it's basically delivering it in a way that's very serious, so traditionally it's not funny, but in order for deadpan humour to work, it needs a really witty script, and when the script works in this film, I actually was chuckling. And basically deadpan humour is supposed to make you chuckle, it's not supposed to make you laugh out loud, but there are moments where I thought, alright, well, the deadpan humour worked in that aspect, and so that was fairly decent. And there are some fairly shocking scenes in this film, but the scenes are done in a very subtle way. The whole film has a certain sense of subtlety to it, which almost makes it a tragic sort of play, and so I thought that was decent. And so you've got some really surreal moments that I thought, well, it actually makes it something that is trying something different. But unfortunately, where this movie falls boils down is that it's just not consistent in the areas that it needs to be in order for this style of film to work. The script is just not strong enough to hold up the movie. And so when you've got deadpan humour, it relies on a very strong script. And there's a lot of the deadpan quality that just doesn't work because the script doesn't evolve really anything. And that could be the motivation to this film. This could be the intention of the director, is that he doesn't want to expand or evolve anything because that is the world this main character is caught in. But when you have a film that the viewer is supposed to invest their time in, yes, you get that connection, yes, you get that depressive feeling, but after a while it does become repetitive. And yes, that's the bland life that this character is facing, but after a while you start to think, what is the point? This main character is thinking, what's the point of his life? But unfortunately the viewer, you do get a sympathetic quality, but after a while you start disconnecting yourself because you feel as though, what is the point of this film? And so it just doesn't really evolve into anything. It doesn't really have any progression in the film. It doesn't have any different lines. It's just basically one straight line, and that's it. And so it is going through the motions. It is treading water, and unfortunately for a film to work, you need it to have an elevation. You need it to have sort of different levels so you can really invest your time. There are moments where in every film it threatens to you threaten to disconnect yourself, but there's an elevation, there's an evolution to a story that keeps you motivated to watch it. But unfortunately this movie just doesn't have that. I thought John C. Reilly's performance as the agent to this stand-up comedian was decent, but the whole film was decent, but unfortunately after a while you just start to think it runs out of ideas. And yes, it has a very surreal imagery, yes, it is very weird, but unfortunately after a while, as I said, you've got very empty characters, and yes, that might be the intention, to emulate what a depressed person would feel, but unfortunately as far as watching a movie is concerned, it just doesn't have the quality to make it a memorable experience. So it's an experience that you can do worse than, but unfortunately there's a lot of potential to this movie. It's also a film about entertainers, as I said, being the most depressed people, and basically this is a film that is anything but entertainment. But after a while, as I said, it just needs that punch, it needs that evolution in the story to really make you feel as though it was something worthwhile, and unfortunately it just doesn't really do that. So it's not a terrible film by any means, but unfortunately it just doesn't have enough life in it, and that may have been the intention, but unfortunately it does work against it. As far as deadpan humour is concerned, the script doesn't really have the consistency for it to work. So in the end, it just becomes a very forgettable experience. It's an experience I'm only going to give 1.5 stars to. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.